Thanks to those joining us live and those that'll be joining us on the archive. I'm being joined by the one, the only Mario Munguia from In Fighting FX. There's the handle. That's the name on all the social media platforms: X, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. Of course, I am D Stop. If you like the content, make sure you hit the like. Make sure you subscribe and tell us what you think on the comment if you're listening on the archive. Hulk Hogan, at the age of 71, has passed away, just shy of his 72nd birthday. Um, Cardiac arrest looks like it's what's being reported. I am not surprised that another professional wrestler has passed away. This is the business, Mario. If you follow it, a lot of professional wrestlers die young. Hogan is actually one of the older ones, right? But he had a lot of issues. And by the way, also rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne as well. One of my favorite rock artists, rock legend. My two favorite songs, "Crazy Train" and it's definitely my and the "No More Tears" are my two favorite songs of Ozzy Osbourne. I was a big fan of growing up, of Black Sabbath, all that. So, but yeah, man, look, the older we get, the more we're gonna see the people we grew up watching pass away, right? Um, I'll be honest, Mario. Hogan was never one of my favorites. I didn't dislike him either as a professional wrestler, but I always acknowledge this, and people always do this thing. I don't know why they do it, and I get why they do it, and but they do this thing where like one of the biggest. No, no, I think it's fair to say. Of course, it's my opinion, but he is the biggest name in the history of professional wrestling. Had the biggest impact in the history of professional wrestling, and I know wrestling has a long history and all that, but I just think it was the impact that he had, the importance and role that he played, the popularity. He ruled the '80s and early '90s. He was, and even the mid '90s. Had, in my opinion, one of the greatest runs ever. Love him, hate him. I understand people complain that he politicked. That was the nature of the business. But I think he's the biggest name in the history of wrestling. I mean, that's coming from a guy. I don't. He wasn't even one of my favorites, but he's at the least top two. Uh, but I think he's number one, biggest name ever, ever.
Yeah. I think
My
that
grandma knows who Hulk Hogan is, bro.
absolutely. I think it's safe to say that Hulk Hogan's place in wrestling is very similar to Vince McMahon, right? And while Vince had the power and the ownership, I don't believe for a second that WWE would be a product right now where it's at if you didn't have Vince or Hulk Hogan. Okay. That said, though, right, while Hulk
Mm.
Hogan was the guy to send it to the stratosphere, and that could be considered the person who's most important, Stone Cold Steve Austin saved the company. Hulk Hogan, while he was also the guy who brought wrestling to the top for the WWE
Yeah.
and everyone, he's also simultaneously the guy that almost killed the WWF WWE. There was a
That's
moment,
part
and
like that. That's
Vince has
impressive, though.
admitted it. I mean, sure, his star power is undeniable in that sense, but it's very interesting to think about, in the sense that here's a guy who, yes, he built everything up, but then he was almost responsible for tearing it all down. Vince has admitted many times that he thought they were on the verge of bankruptcy. He told Bret Hart, go back to WCW, try to get your millions because we can't pay you. And we don't even know if we're going to be in business next year. And it
Well,
was
let me
Stone
tell you
Cold
something, brother.
Austin. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin that helped not just save the company, but beat
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan and then NWO in
Like
the ratings
here's
war.
why I place him above Stone Cold. And look, I'm a bigger fan of Stone Cold. I had Austin 316 T-shirt, like all that good stuff, right? I remember like when I was working construction out of town as in the summers when I was in high school, I put Austin 316 on my hard hat. I was a huge Stone
Oh
Cold
yeah.
fan, right? But like, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so, right? But here's the thing: you just can't compare, bro. Hogan's era is before WrestleMania, right? Since he beat the Iron Sheik, right? Even in the AWA, I believe it was, he was still kind of a big star there. Look at the Vince Senior, right? Was the owner of the WWF when before Vince Jr. took over, and he was already on a run in the movie Rocky, right? And he got fired because of that, because he appeared in the movie and then he comes
Yep.
back, right? He was already a pretty decent star at the time, nowhere near what he would become. Of course, there's a vision of Vince McMahon, but there's the guy who executed it, and that's Hulk Hogan. WrestleMania 1, and this is before WrestleMania 1, by the way, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then comes back in 18, right? So has another run after that. I mean, let's just be honest. Stone Cold was doing tag team wrestling and winning U.S. titles in WCW was relatively unknown. Bret Hart was pitching him as a good worker to Vince McMahon, and yes, he comes in as a mute. Apparently, I don't know who told Vince this guy could have cut promos, but comes in as a ringmaster. He was a mute, the $1 Million Man doing promos for him, and then they find out he could cut a promo after he beats Jake the Snake in the King of the Ring. Of course, there's a double turn with Bret Hart. He starts to skyrocket. Of course, is the unfortunate pile driver by Owen Hart, but so it kind of put him out for a little bit. But he comes back. But Stone Cold's run is relatively short. It's a very short run. It just doesn't compare. While Hogan has the Hulkamania era, right? And then he's probably one of the greatest heels ever with Hollywood Hulk Hogan, right?
Oh yeah,
and
redefined
almost
himself.
Killed an empire, almost killed Titan Sports, single-handedly proving I can do it like he did what Tom Brady did before Tom Brady. You know, Tom Brady.
Okay, now I got it. Okay, I got to give you pushback here. Okay, because
but let
go
me
ahead.
make this point.
Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Tom Brady, he leaves the Patriots. Oh, he ain't going to make it. He needed Bill Belichick. What happened? He wins another Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's what Hulk Hogan did, okay, when he had a Hollywood Hogan run. And then just a cherry on top, Mario, all those years, he comes back and he gets a bigger pop at WrestleMania 18 than a prime Rock. When they try to do everything to make this guy look like a bad guy, they were trying to bury the NWO, but he still overcame that and had an amazing, pop and had a little bit of a run still, even at that old age. And we don't even need to count that, but what's your pushback?
So listen, first of all, I'm going to start where I agree with you, right? Because so many people talk about a Mount Rushmore. I don't know if you could ever just have one person, right? And then there's two, right? You're talking about in-ring work versus commercial appeal. However, I have to push back because you said it. You gave me this ammo. Stone Cold Steve Austin was nothing more than a tag team. WCW didn't want him. ECW couldn't even use him. And yet, here is a guy who, through sheer talent and effort, broke through the barrier and became the guy to carry the flag. Whereas Hogan had push after push after push after push. And at the end of the day, yes, he was politicking and he made himself in a position where he was the only guy, right? Because he's sabotaging everybody around him, climbing to the top. But ultimately, Hogan got the Roman Reigns push. Now, I'm not saying that Roman doesn't have the it factor or Hogan didn't have obviously they have the it factor. But if they listened to us as fans, Roman would have been booed out of the entire system. So at what point is it more about them getting a constant push that's happening week to week, month to month, year to year, cramming them down our throats, versus the guy who nobody wanted and set a random line, Austin 316, and skyrocketed?
Here's the thing, Mario. Man. Like, here's the thing, though. Even though we got those pushes, they tried to replace him. They tried to replace him with the Warrior. It didn't work. They tried to replace him. Well, Sid Justice came in to try to be a replacement of this guy. They tried to bring Ric Flair in. They try to look. Bret Hart is my favorite wrestler of all time. Same. He never got anywhere near the stratosphere of a Hulk Hogan.
Sure, he belongs on the work rate Mount Rushmore.
Work rate, and he was still relatively big name, especially in Europe and Canada, obviously.
Absolutely.
He was a draw, but we're talking about the GOAT of draw abilities, and Hogan did it for so many years. We've seen guys get pushed and pushed and pushed, and people get tired of them, and they're done with them. For Hogan, people weren't really tired of him till like close to WrestleMania 8. He beat the Sheik in, like, what was that, in the 70s when he beat the Sheik?
Great point.
The
Great
Iron
point.
Sheik, the Iron Sheik,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 Point.
Like, a
Use
lot
it.
of guys got pushes back then, but that's the way. But here's the thing: everything was based on merit back then. There was no contract with a TV deal. USA giving them hundreds of millions in a contract and TV deals and nothing like that. It was a different model back then. Back then, either you swim or you drowned, and that's it. Either you put butts in seats or you didn't. The fact of the matter is this, Mario, as big, and somebody brought up the Ultimate Warrior, and the Ultimate Warrior for that short period of time, to his credit, was loved, and I loved him as a kid too, right? But the reality is, Mario, when the Ultimate Warrior was a WWF champion, and at the time when you were given the belt, kayfabe, it meant you were the great best in the world, yada yada yada. But what it really meant, and not shoot, what it meant was that you were the
You're the
guy
draw.
that carried the company on your back. You were the draw.
You're the draw.
That's what it was, right? Countless wrestlers have already accounted to this and said they had us touring with either the Warrior or Hogan. Our paychecks were bigger when we were touring with Hogan, right?
Yep.
More people showed up. There was a bigger gate, and the guys under, the main event dude, right? Like, the amount of money they made depended on the gate money, right? And they wanted to tour with Hogan. Hogan was just, even though they were giving the push to the Ultimate Warrior, he beat him at WrestleMania 6. He beat Hulkamania in a unification for Intercontinental and WWF World Title, and he got this big massive push, but for whatever reason, he couldn't get over that hump. He couldn't outperform Hogan. Right, the numbers were just less, even with the Ultimate Warrior. That's why they eventually gave the belt back to Hulk Hogan. That's why they took it off of Warrior.
No. Yes and no. Warrior, remember, he was trying to hold out for money. He was trying to fuck Vince. And when Vince realized that this is the way this guy's going to do business, yes, he went back to Hogan. He thought he was more trustworthy, more loyal, and that is important in business, right? So I agree with your point ultimately. And I will say this too, right? Hogan was able to reinvent himself. The reason why Jay-Z is still one of the best rappers of all time is because he stopped rapping about crack in 2000s. Like, he evolved. He became something else. That's what Hulk Hogan did. That's what Stone Cold never did. Remember, Stone Cold left. He took his ball home. When he came back, he was a shell of himself. It was a comedy gimmick. It was disgusting. So he never evolved past the, beer chugging, boss stunning guy that he was, that we all loved. But that said, again, I harp on
he
the
did
push.
that. It was his final. That like, you're familiar with Dragon Ball. That was his final form, right?
That was his final form. Good call. Hell yeah, you're right.
He did evolve, but he was just a relatively unknown guy compared to Hulk Hogan for too many years.
Absolutely.
Put him above Hulk Hogan. I mean, it's just.
But I wonder how much of a bigger star Brett would be. Sergeant Slaughter, the Sheik, Honky Tonk Man, Savage, if he did the job for them. You see, Bret Hart was supposed to get the job done for him at SummerSlam, right? And in August, and then King of the Ring in June or July. Hogan left the company, right? And this was all based on the fact that WrestleMania 9 was a shit show, right? Brett's the champion. Yokozuna wins the Royal Rumble, and somehow Hogan comes out and gets the title. It was ridiculous.
But here's the thing, we have
instances of this.
I get what you're saying. Like, he screwed over Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. Kurt Hennig was supposed to beat him.
That was another one. Thank you for reminding me of that one. That's a big one.
Of course, he was a politicking guy. Like, now let's be honest, y'all politicked, right? Everybody was a backstabber. It's just the way it was. The business model was just different back then. But the reality is, most wrestlers wanted Hogan to be the champion, right?
For the money.
If you toured with him, they made more money. Like, I don't know about you, Mario. If I'm part of the team, right, and that man is making us more money, I want him to get it. I want him to.
No. See, that's where you're wrong about this. So you're partly right about this. You're absolutely right. It's a business and we want to make money. That's why I thought CM Punk leaving AEW and the Young Bucks not working was the stupidest shit in the world. They would have made millions, right? But you got to remember, even though WWE is a company, it's also a sport. And the boys in the back, they're part of the team. It's like a football team. And I don't know if you play baseball or football or
I
any team
agree.
sports like that. The boys are, I played baseball, I played football, I was part of the boys. We all play poker on Friday night, went to wherever on Saturday, have
Kayfabe,
fun,
they're
whatever,
competing
all that
against each
shit.
other.
Sure, I know, and in real life they're competing against each other too for merch sales, for all that shit, right? But it is a
100%.
team effort to put on each event. And if Hulk Hogan was the quarterback, because he was the quarterback, then he should have been
There
the
you go.
guy that oversaw the boys. Look at the Undertaker. The Undertaker had the
But
same
he
type of
did,
momentum, not his
Mario.
power, but the Undertaker was the judge and jury for the boys. They loved him so much. He was a guy you could have a beer with, play dominoes, play poker. Hogan was never that guy. Hogan was I'm not saying this in a bad way, like, oh, capitalist elitist. I don't mean that like politically. I just mean
Sure.
that he was out for himself and to make as much money as he could. There's
Look,
nothing wrong
I
with
have
that. But at
news
the end
for
of the day, it
you.
makes him not a good team
They're all out for
player.
themselves. Every single one of them was out for themselves, right? Those guys that knew their role to play, right? And all I'm telling you is this isn't mutually exclusive to everybody. I'm sure there's wrestlers that wanted they wanted the brass ring and to have a shot at like
Absolutely.
carrying the company. They tried that with the Ultimate Warrior for what Vince had a thing for dudes with good bodies. It is what it is, right? It didn't quite work out, right? It just and I agree with you. And I kind of forgot about the politicking, or not politicking, but a lot of the bad business that that Warrior did by like literally showing up and saying, "I'm not going to wrestle unless you pay me more money." And
Yeah, you don't do that
when
to Vince. You
yeah,
saw what they
you're
did to
already in a
Brett.
live event, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to give it to you, but
Exactly.
then you're done," right? No, I get all that, but all I'm telling you is eventually it would all come back to Hogan anyway, right? I don't think any of the names you like, every single one of those names, like, do I wish Roddy Piper would have had a run with a belt? Yes, right. He didn't have it. It is what it is. But the business was just different back then, right?
You're right. You're right.
It's a different model. You're judging it by today's standards, the way they do business today. Like Roman Reigns' reign, that long reign everybody complained about. I loved it, right? But a lot of people complained about the long reign of Roman Reigns, right? Um, I couldn't. I never realized they were gonna give him a long reign with a name like that.
No
But
shit, right?
like that's actually a short reign compared to the reigns back then, right? It was a relatively like Warrior's reign was. I don't believe was supposed to be that short. Unfortunately, he did what he did. Also, the reality was Vince did have an excuse to just drop him and go back to Hogan because Hogan was outperforming him in the house shows and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm telling you is nobody ever says, "Oh, Bruno San Martino, why didn't he let this guy and that guy become world champion?"
Fair.
Bob Backlund, well, why did he have a 4-year reign? Well, why didn't he allow this guy and that guy to have a championship? Because that was the model back then. The model back then was there was a quarterback, as you put it. There was a main guy and kayfabe, they're competing against each other. But in reality, if you're the heel and you're working against Bob Backlund, if you're the heel, you're working against Bruno San Martino. It's your job to make that man the superstar because it benefits you as well, right?
Yeah.
Those guys you mentioned did a phenomenal job playing the role to build Hulk Hogan, right? But it helped them in the process, right? Roddy Piper, the reason he's known like he is, I believe, is because his rivalry with Hulk Hogan. Macho Man, same thing. The reason he's known like he is the rivalry with Hulk Hogan, the whole storyline with the Mega Powers and Elizabeth and all that. Um, and back to Macho Man, he did get a shot. They gave the belt to him by being the $1 Million Man.
Come on,
But
man. That Mega Power shit was clearly derailed by Hogan. There was something going on. Look, I don't know if the rumors were true that he gave Hogan that black eye at WrestleMania 9.
you don't think the plan all along was to eventually break up the Mega Powers?
Sure, I think they imploded much faster because we were seeing on air that they couldn't even really work with each other anymore. So I think that was the plan because they were afraid of something worse happening. But listen, I want to make this very clear. In no way am I trying to take away Hogan's place in the sport and what he's done. There would be no WWE, there would be no AEW today. Okay, it would probably be the territory still, right? And everybody, trying to pack a gymnasium in for 150 people. That said, I think it's important to keep in context, right? I can be a fan and admire and or feel very bad that my hero Hulk, died because the inner child in me, his heart read, even though the adult version of me at some point grew up, and I didn't dislike Hogan because of any of the outside ring stuff. I disliked Hogan because it was all a lie. Like, it's my pride and ego that was like, wait a minute, you didn't take your
Well,
vitamins, you took fucking
it's all
steroids.
kayfabe.
Wait a minute, you didn't take. Okay, but as a kid, right? I bought into this whole American dream, Hulk Hogan like hero thing, and it was
When he
all
said
bullshit.
take
And
your
that's okay.
vitamins, he didn't say what type of vitamins.
He was talking about
Shit, I mean,
Synthol.
you
Yo,
assumed he was talking
but
about Flintstones.
no, and that's the other part too, right? I want to make this also clear. I think it's way too soon for people to be like, oh, just remember Hulk Hogan's a piece of shit, right? 24 hours haven't even passed. Okay. He has a
Right.
wife, or ex-wife, and a current wife. He has a daughter, he has a son. And by the way, there are millions of people who represent something for Hogan, right? Or Hogan represents something to them, a nostalgia, the memories with their grandfather or their dad or their brother that passed from cancer, their
But
wife or
Mario,
their child, whatever, right? And those are the
I
people
got
that
you.
you're hurting. Hogan's gone. So talking shit about him 24 hours, less than 24 hours after he died, is doing nothing but shitting on the people that are just like innocent in all this.
Yeah,
You know what I
well,
mean?
look, I'll say this. I mean, to your point, you thought it was all a lie, but here's the beautiful part, Mario, right? You didn't have to wait till you grew up. He told you in one of the greatest promos I've ever seen, right? Bash at the beach, and he said, "I did it all for the money, brother." And
Oh, that was great. Yeah, that was
he
great.
already cut the promo, and he told you it was all a lie. It was all full of shit. He turned it to Hollywood Hogan, and he went out to have one of the greatest heel runs I've ever seen. When people look at when they were begging John Cena to turn heel, that was that was the bar. When they were like, "Come on, turn this guy
Very,
Roman Reigns
very
heel,"
good
that
point.
was the bar.
Very
The
good
bar
point.
when people are tired and they're done with a dude that's past, like, we're done with this fake act. We don't believe him anymore. It's time to do the turn. The bar was set by Hulk Hogan, and that he did something not by himself. Obviously, Hall and Nash played a big role. Sting as a Crow Sting, though, that whole thing was just phenomenal.
Phenomenal
But
storytelling.
that was one of the greatest heel runs ever,
Ever in the history of, wrestling,
ever.
for sure. For sure. And by the way, somebody reminded me on my live earlier. By the way, you can go to Infighting FX on YouTube and subscribe. Stone Cold Steve Austin had a domestic abuse allegation, or maybe even got charged. I don't remember, with Deborah, his ex-wife, who is also there, at the other side. You fans can stick it,
But by
brother.
the way, I think that's what Mario.
Hilarious.
Mario's like, I grew up one day, and I think it was that promo. I think that promo made
Bro, he
Mario
broke
like,
my
it was all
heart,
a
bro.
lie.
Hey,
If
I admit
Mario
it's
was
pride
there,
and ego,
by the way,
bro. I
if
admit it.
if Mario was there, he would have been that dude that jumped the rail and
Oh, I would have been
went in the
crying.
ring, and then
I would have been
Scott Hall had
crying,
to beat him
throwing
up.
beer, soda, whatever, bro. No, listen,
Bro,
I'm telling you.
phenomenal.
But see, it's beyond that though, right? Because it wasn't just that he didn't take vitamins and really didn't do his prayers and all that. It was that he was literally the exact opposite of everything he was preaching. You know what I mean? And here's the other part about it. He was a shitty wrestler. Like, that was the part when I grew up. When
Doesn't
I
matter.
realized, wait a minute.
It
Hulk Hogan and Ultimate
literally
Warrior was
doesn't
boring
matter.
fucking match I've ever seen in my life. Why was I so hyped for it? And I realized because it was a propaganda machine. And I was
No, that's not what it was, no, Mario.
it wasn't a
That's not.
propaganda machine.
No. Like, all of wrestling is a propaganda machine by that logic. Well, what I'm saying is, here's the thing.
Maybe,
Here's the thing.
maybe. No one
He
really believes in
knew,
Joe Hendry.
Mario. You can't like you need to admit that he knew how to work a crowd. He knew how to get people hyped up in the match and invested in the match. Just so he's not jumping around doing flips like dudes. Like today, dudes are doing flips and all these crazy moves. They're more athletic than ever, but they can't.
No, he was a terrible wrestler. He did like 4 moves every single
What
match.
does that? Why
Literally
does it
every
matter?
Mania is that,
If,
because it's the same
Mario, if
story over
I
and
if hold
over.
on, this is coming from, like, I get what you mean, because this is why I started with. He's not even one of my favorite wrestlers.
Yeah.
I get that. My favorite wrestler of all time is Bret the Hitman Hart, right?
Respect.
Like that's those are the type of wrestlers I liked, but but he was. I get he was never the the technical wrestler and all that. I get all that. I'm not saying it was Rey Mysterio in there or Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels or even other big men like whatever. Like what I'm saying is he knew how to work a crowd. He
I
got people
agree.
hyped up. You can't see the propaganda machine because the Magic at WrestleMania 18 settled that. When he was the bad
He
guy, he wasn't supposed to get cheered in that fight.
No, I remember it was a fantastic moment in wrestling, and it
If you watch that match
absolutely.
on mute, you're wondering what the fuck, like this
Sure,
sucks, right?
absolutely. And listen,
But
here's
but
the thing.
that's not the
I'm not
point.
saying that no, that match didn't suck. The Rock match was terrific. And by the way, his New Japan stuff was great. I'm specifically talking Hulkamania. Hulkamania, he wrestled in a way that he didn't want to get injured. He didn't want to take big bumps, right? This was a situation where they were just coasting. You know what I mean? It was basically the top ranked diet for Xander Zayas, but in fucking wrestling form. You know what I'm saying? And so like all I'm saying is it's like too much
Mario,
credit
if
for what he
you big
actually did.
boot
It
a
was a star.
dude,
Go ahead.
if you big boot a dude and then leg drop and it makes the crowd go wild, why would you do more?
Uh I mean, I get that logic, but at the same time, it's like an event for the fans, right? Because you didn't like what happened at this year's
Well,
WrestleMania,
if the
nor did
fans are
I.
going
You know
crazy, like
why? Because it was the same fucking
no, no,
booking.
no,
I didn't like fucking
people were
Saudi either because it was the
complaining.
same booking.
Look, Mario, like nobody talks about Steamboat versus Savage. It
Yes,
was a
they
far,
do.
it was a far better match. Like you know what I mean? But no, not
And
really.
Hogan. Oh,
Well,
okay. I get
us
what you're saying. I
wrestling
get what you're
fans
saying.
talk about it. Us
I get what
wrestling
you're saying.
fans talk
Over
about it. But
Hogan and
your
Giant. Okay,
average
yes,
dude
you're absolutely
doesn't
right.
like
I
your
can see.
average
You're right.
person doesn't remember that, but they'll never
I agree.
forget Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant. Now, never mind the fact that yes, Giant had been body slammed before by Harley Race, even Hogan himself and others, but that didn't matter because to the eyes of the people watching, right, they never seen Andre the Giant body slam before. So when he body slammed Andre the Giant, and you watch people like the wave of people going nuts and crazy and jumping up and down, and the 1, 2, 3, like they already decided that this is what we came for. We love this. Yes, the pain public was already on jumping up and down on their feet, and they got the payoff right.
But
And
actually,
that is an
WrestleMania after
iconic
WrestleMania
moment.
5, they made far less money from tickets. I mean, yes, it was still WrestleMania. They were still selling out. He was still the biggest star in the world. Okay, you're absolutely right. My only thing is that what legacy does he leave behind, right? Because this
Sure.
isn't the time to talk about it, right? He just passed. This isn't the time to really get into it, right? That's why I'm not bringing up, Brooke Hogan and him not talking in 8 years or his wife or, the racism or any of that outside stuff.
Look, I get he
Specifically talking
wasn't.
about
I
his
get he
business.
wasn't the Dynamite Kid, Mario. I get that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, deep cut.
but
Good job.
he made more money than Dynamite Kid, and more people pay to watch him than the Dynamite Kid.
Absolutely. And that is worth a lot in the business. But again, from the fans who've already paid their money back in the 80s and it's all over with, right? Where do we
Sure.
stand on him? Because we're not going to remember him for his wrestling. And that's going to be very forgotten soon, right? Like, what image of Hulk Hogan do they think about 50 years from now, 100 years from now?
I think you're looking at this like I
And it's
get what
like
you mean.
Terry Bolla and Hogan. Like, does Terry Bolla ruin Hulk Hogan?
No.
Is kind of the question
Well,
that
I
I
mean,
have.
I see what you mean, but before we get to that, I just
And
need to
honestly,
say
that's my
this.
point.
So, one of the biggest problems with professional wrestling, especially like it's suffering from it today, and all that. Like, do you remember like when we were watching the cruiserweights back in WCW and people were like blown away,
Oh, I loved
right?
it.
They're like, "Holy
Barbecue,
shit! Well, what are these
psychosis.
guys like? I like this type of wrestling." You know what I mean? And
Oh,
then
yeah.
right, and then but then like companies like WCW ECW came around, and people are going through 7 tables, and there's barbed wire, and
Fire.
it desensitized the audience to shit, and then now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nowadays, no one thinks that a match is a good match unless it's like 20, miss
Spears and near
falls and like
falls. Yep.
all the near falls and that, this and that. And what
Very
Hogan
good
did
point.
was he was so great, right, that he allowed an opening for other wrestlers to shine, right, by being more technical in the ring, right? How is Bret Hart defending his Intercontinental Championship going to stand out and be unique if Hogan is doing the same technical moves in the main event? How does that benefit anybody, right? If Hulk Hogan was which I can't even imagine this, but he was climbing the top rope and doing hurricanranas and or Franklin Steiners, and I don't want to trigger Steiner if you ever heard this. If Hulk Hogan was doing flips and doing suicide dives and doing 5-star matches, then why would anybody give a shit about the undercard? Well, why would anybody care about Savage versus? Why does to wrestling fans? Why did Savage versus Steamboat stick out? Right, because it was a workers' match, right? And how did the Intercontinental Championship became known as the workers' belt, right? Because of that. At the end of the day, because Hogan was a star attraction, right? And below that star attraction, it gave you were able to watch Bret Hart put on a technical match, right? And then you could watch Shawn Michaels, the jump around or whatever. You could watch great tag team wrestling. Like there was different things that stuck out on that card, right? And the more you watch, like me, the reason why was I watching wrestling? Because Hogan was such a big star, I would watch wrestling. I would sit down with my dad and watch wrestling. And the more and more I watch wrestling, I noticed the undercard. I noticed, oh, who's this guy? I like what he does. This Bret Hart dude. He's putting him in sharpshooters, and he's the Intercontinental Champion. And then that opened the door for that. It was a working model. So like every time someone says oh, Hogan, he didn't do much in the ring, he did what he needed to do. He was a star attraction and brought the butts in the seats, right? And then who gave the people their money's worth? If that was enough, the Bret Harts, the Shawn Michaels, the Steamboats, Savage, or what have you, the tag team wrestlers. It was their job to go out there and give the fans a great show. Hogan, the moneymaker, he's not going to be doing flips and cartwheels and 20, near falls and technical matches, because then nobody else would stand out.
Yeah.
Nobody else would matter.
I definitely get that. I think though too, it's a situation where if you're Hogan, right, you're in this place like towards the end of his, life. He was, he got really into God and or his religion. I'm not sure what he was, but a lot of stuff came out, and he admitted a lot of things, and it just, I don't think people even had a problem with like a lot of stuff that happened. It's just like there was never any accountability, right? Like his apology for a lot of the like racist stuff was like, kind of bullshit. And like, the times him bailing his son out of fucking drunk driving DWIs, one of them, which, left a man paralyzed for life. I don't know. It's just like a whole thing. All I know is the last time that I saw Hulk Hogan in front of a large group of wrestling fans, it was this past January in the Raw debut on Netflix, and he was booed out of the building. Now, context, it was in LA, a very, democratic liberal state, and Hogan had just gotten off his MAGA tour. So that might be part of it, right? For sure. But there seemed to be a very collective feeling about Hogan in the community. It had been building for years, decades, and then it hit this crux right here, so it's a weird timing for all of this. Like, I don't mean to sound insensitive at all, but had he passed like 5 years ago, this might be a completely different situation for people. And again, not for me. Like I have my feelings about this, but I'm not trying to impact it. Like I don't want people to think he's bigger than they think, simply because I know how valuable he was to the WWE, WCW, and wrestling as a whole. On the other side, I also understand the context of people that are like, bro, why are we celebrating this guy? Again, it's not about not celebrating, but it's about pointing out the fact that it's a very complicated wrestler with an even more complicated personal life, which we all have, right? I don't want to judge him on shit that is his personal life. Like, I watch Bret Hart, right? I'm a fan. Love Bret Hart. I still watch his matches today. I buy his merch, all that shit, right? Support. I don't know if he's a good husband. I don't know if he's a good dad to his kids, right? If he wasn't, yeah, it might make me change my feelings for him. But at the end of the day, I celebrate the guy I know in the ring because I don't know who the fuck Bret Hart is. I don't know any of these dudes. But I can tell you right now, when I look at Hogan, that's not a dude I think I could have a beer with. Roddy Piper, Savage, Mr. Perfect, all these other guys you mentioned, they did seem like one of the boys. You know what I mean? So it might be some like more like projection I'm doing, right? Where I see this
Well,
guy
I
and I'm
mean,
like,
I guess my thing is this, though, right? Like, obviously, I don't condone the racist remarks that Hulk Hogan
sure.
made, right? Um, I don't even agree with this. With that, what people overlook a lot is when he says, "I guess we're all a little racist," right? And it's like, nah, bro. Like, and I get tired when racists say racist shit, and then they go, "We're all a little racist." I'm not racist. And don't put me in the fucking bin along with everybody else, right? But my point is this: Hulk Hogan was a character on television. It was a character doing a play, basically.
Yes.
Uh, well, are people going to be affected by what he said, or is it going to make them think twice about, or maybe worse than that, about him as a person and all that? Um, I don't need Hulk Hogan to be a guy I could sit down and have a beer with. I don't need him to be a guy I would be a friend with. I don't need him to be somebody I look up to like that, right? He's not an idol of mine. But what I will not do is take away his impact in the business, whether it was the famous things or infamous things he did.
It would be
Right?
misleading.
I'm not going to pretend like he wasn't the biggest name in the 80s.
It would be inaccurate.
I'm not going to pretend like everyone in the 80s and early 90s knew who Hulk Hogan was, whether it was grandmothers, mothers, kids, you name it. Right? I'm not going to pretend like the world of professional wrestling transition into sports entertainment wouldn't be a thing without Hulk Hogan.
You'd be
We
lying if you said
we
otherwise.
may not even be talking about a WWE if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan.
That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be on Netflix, I don't think. I don't think it'd
Like
be on
like
all these homes.
we cannot ignore that. Like that's and then you go to the mid 90s, the NWO run. They still sell NWO t-shirts till this day.
They're one of the hottest selling shirts still. And the Austin
This
360.
t-shirt, which I'm wearing today, right,
Yeah,
was like kind of an extension from the NWO, right?
yeah.
And the
Branch.
character of Hollywood Hogan, and the great thing about professional wrestling is this, right? Whether they're faces in real life, whether they're heels in real life, it doesn't matter because in professional wrestling they play both roles.
Yeah.
Right? There's good guys and bad guys, and it's one thing people need to learn and take away from wrestling is that the good guys don't always win. Right? That's something I heard Chris Jericho say, and that's a main lesson that people should take from professional wrestling. The good guy doesn't always win. Right?
Yeah.
And so whether he's a heel in real life or a good guy or whatever, if he just said something stupid one time, all I'm going to say is it doesn't impact the way I view his impact and how big he was as a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Wrestling as we know today doesn't exist without Hulk Hogan. 4 moves,
Absolutely.
5 moves, 20 moves, it doesn't matter.
5
At the end of
moves
the
of doom,
day,
baby.
the guy, he's the blueprint to how you build a star, how you turn him heel and make it work. He's that dude. Did he play politics? Fuck yeah, he did. It doesn't work for me, brother. I get it. Right?
Yeah.
But the fact that people even know what that means without you having to explain further tells you everything. Right? So he's
The fact that I
famous
could say, Hulk Hogan,
and
I'm
infamous.
coming for you. And everybody knows what the last part is.
That's
Boom.
right. Shout out to Booker T.
Shout out, Book.
But I can't ignore that. I can't ignore his impact. I can't do it. I think it's stupid when people do Mount Rushmores. They're like, well, I don't have Hulk Hogan there because he's a racist. I guess, but he should be in a Mount Rushmore if we're talking about the biggest stars in the history of WWE.
Yeah.
Like, you can't ignore that. And he'll always
Yeah.
be there. I can't guarantee Roman Reigns is always going to be on one, or Cena's always going to be on one, or The Rock's always going to be on one. Stone Cold and Hogan are the only two guarantees in any Mount Rushmore in WWE history. 20, 30 years from now. Nothing's going to change that. Nothing.
Um, I wanna bring up a topic that's connected to this in
Sure.
what it would mean, what it will mean when Vince one day passes. But before I say that, I want to make this one point. Isn't it kind of like, I don't know if ironic or it's just like so fitting, right? Hogan made his career in the 80s and early 90s in WWE by, reportedly and admittedly burying other talent, not working well with others, keeping others down. Then he goes to WCW, and his biggest gimmick and most success that came from there ended up being a faction in which he put like 30 wrestlers over. I mean, at one point there was like 42 members of the NWO, right? Everybody had a shirt. So it's funny that like in one half of his career, it was all about him politicking and holding people back. And on the other side of his career, he literally was in a gimmick that just put anyone over, So it was funny. But yeah, Vince is another person, I think, in this Hogan kind of category. It's like, these two guys did something and had a vision, specifically Vince, that no one else had. And I don't know if anyone else would have had it in a time where it would have worked, right? By the time it becomes 1995 and somebody decides, fine, let's put wrestling on TV, you are competing with baseball, football, tennis, golf. I mean, there's so much more stuff. The fact that wrestling became a staple of cable television when it expanded across the country made it a staple of TV for that generation and for everyone else that moved forward. So when you look at it, again, it goes back to the point you're making. There is no company possibly without Hulk Hogan in it. And there's nothing, literally nothing without Vince McMahon. And yet, two of these guys' outside reputations have been damaged so badly in the 2020s that, this kind of thing where you'd be normally celebrating and talking about, oh my God, this is terrible, I remember this, has turned into an online debate. You know what I mean? And so I think
100%.
Vince shares that. You think that
Look,
ultimately the
if and
WWE
when Vince passes away, people can't, you just can't ignore what he created.
rewrite history is what you said,
Like,
and that was the
they
best way to
say,
put
like,
it.
I always hated the term WWE Universe. I still don't like it, right?
Yeah,
But he
a lot
did
of people don't.
create, they talk about the MCU and the DCU and the other. Vince was the first one to create a universe.
Yo, good call. I didn't even
He,
think of it
he
that
was the
way.
first one to create a universe. He was the first
Good
one,
call.
right? Everything was like whatever you believe in life. Like this is of course, it's kayfabe, right? It's sports entertainment, but this is our universe here,
Yo,
right?
that's crazy.
And,
That's
and he was the
crazy.
first one to do it. And
Dexter,
but
Game of Thrones, they all have universes now. I never thought about it all starting from there. That's
but
crazy.
it's not
Good
just
call.
that. The way like a lot of sports, like a lot of the things that they do, they got it from WWE, right? When you watch a boxing match today and or UFC or something, and you watch like two like how they show the images with the two athletes next to each other and the stats and stuff like that. Or when they're walking out to the ring and it shows you the name and all that. Vince is the one that started all that shit. It was WWF back in the day that started all that. You know, the like it's just it is what it is. But yeah.
Yeah. No,
And,
definitely.
and by the way, I'm gonna say like I know HL's on who cares what people say crusade. No, there's consequences for what you say. Like if people don't like you saying racist shit, there's consequences for it. People don't need to accept people saying racist shit. Well, we need to stop normalizing that shit. Like I'm not gonna normalize people just being racist and just look the other way either. You know what I mean? But
It's like South
um
Park, bro. I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but everybody's talking about the last few minutes of South Park, which obviously were the, show stealer, but the message was the big thing to me, right? Because it was like everybody was rebelling against woke, right? Because it went too far for a lot of people. And especially when you consider, people that went
sure.
through full hormone stuff and, now competing in, female driven sports and stuff like that. But the answer was never to swing the pendulum all the way back to the point where there's no empathy. And that was kind of the message on South Park last night. And, whether they went too far or not, that's not, what I mean, something I care about. But I will
The
say
answer
that
is no.
I will say I will say that the message was on point. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like one thing to get caught up in cancel culture. It's another thing to like pretend like we can just be fucking savages. I don't know if you saw that Jubilee thing where that guy was like, yeah, I'm a fascist. He got fired. And guess what happened? He went on a GoFundMe and all the fucking racists are supporting him now. You know what I mean? The guy who was complaining about fucking Medicaid and Medicare is now fucking literally
Well,
crowdfunding
I don't want
his
to dive
life.
too much
Like,
into all that
yeah,
shit,
yeah, my bad, my bad. You're right.
um,
But the point
but
I was making,
yeah, go
no,
ahead.
my bad. Go ahead. No, the point that I
No,
was making overall is just that it's you're so perfectly on this, right? Because to rewrite history based on your personal morals and values, that's what I mean, that's fascism in and of itself. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, oh, I don't like Hogan, I don't like Vince, but you can't pretend that they didn't do what they did. You can't pretend that they don't have a vital part that they played, again, simply because they offend you, or and here's the thing. I mean, Vince's shit's absolutely offensive if it's true. You know what I mean? But everybody's got to be proven guilty. I still believe that, even though it's bullshit today. I still believe it.
the only thing I will say is this: the answer is no, HLD. You don't need to agree with my thinking. Like if that was the case, I would just ban anybody from speaking in my chat freely. Right? Like obviously you're able to express yourself and give your opinion, but like if I disagree, I'm gonna voice it. Like you know what I mean? Like you can't. Like it's a two-way street with freedom of speech. Like yes, you can say what you want, but you're gonna get a response back, right? And not only that, there's also consequences for what you say, right? You can't tell people, well, just like stop complaining about the him saying racist stuff. If they want to complain about it, they could complain about it. Not now you're giving your grievance about it, but you can't get mad at people that pointed it out. That's all.
Yeah, because I
That's
think you
all I'm
can be
saying.
right. You can be right about his place and what he represents, while also understanding that people get caught up in narratives and propagandas all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, there were people today that I saw claiming that Hulk was on the E list. I've never seen evidence of that. Where did that come from? You
I
know what I
don't
mean?
know. I don't know.
Obviously, it's, you know what I mean? So it's
I have no
crazy.
idea if who's on the because they haven't released the list. So
Yeah,
but
it's impossible
hopefully
to
they'll
know.
release it one day. But that's a different. So I don't want to get caught up with
Doubtful.
that. People get triggered and but um, it's just said you said it's easy to talk to people in the chat with the mic. I'm the dude with the mic. Like, what do you mean you're not talking to me? Like, I don't know. Like, but anyway, but it's all good. Look, here's the thing. I want to just like the reason I don't want to get caught up with the politics is that people are gonna have a lifetime to go over that. You know what I mean? People are gonna have a lifetime to talk about who he endorsed, and they're gonna have a lifetime to talk about things that he said, and I don't want to dive too much into that. Right now, I think it's more appropriate to talk about the impact that he had in professional wrestling, and we touched on that. So what I want to ask you, Mario, is what is some of your favorite Hulk Hogan? Like, give me your five. Give me five. They're not in any particular order because it's very impromptu. But give me five Hulk Hogan moments. They don't even have to be like famous ones. Just things that stick out.
So one thing, the biggest thing for me, because it will always go down for me is like what happened. I don't know the truth. Is the famous WCW Jeff Jarrett laying down for Hulk Hogan. This was a lot of people consider the death nail for WCW, but the way that it goes is essentially they said that they were going to have Jeff Jarrett go out, lay down. Hogan was going to pin him. Cut a promo saying WCW sucks. Goes away, comes back at Halloween Havoc with the belt that he had won. Then we all remember a certain writer goes out there and goes scorched earth on Hogan. That was incredible reality TV for me. Another one that comes to mind is the NWO takeover, the night that they threw Rey Mysterio into the trailer like a fucking lawn dart when Kevin Nash launched him. That night, I'll never forget. Hogan just commanded the scene that night. He seemed like a mob boss, like a gangster. For people that don't know, that was at Universal Studios. The people that lived in the houses on the other side of the Universal Studios called the police. There were several police calls because they thought that the NWO was beating up people for real. That's how it felt. It was amazing. I'll also never forget WrestleMania 9. When I call Hogan a piece of shit for that night, I'm literally just keeping it to that night. I thought it was horrible, but it'll always stick out because I'll remember what the fuck was that. And then finally,
it was Money in the Bank before Money in the Bank even existed. Like he just
great point. Damn, good job.
Money in the Bank powers, because,
hell yeah. No, you're right. That's hilarious. But finally, it's his last match in WWF. When he fought Yokozuna, it was the big cameraman, because all the Japanese kayfabe, all the Japanese reporters would go and cover Yokozuna's matches, right? Because he was supposedly like a famous sumo wrestler or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that night, they did one of those like flash fire things with the camera, and it burned Hogan's face, and he lost the match. And it was weird. It was, I don't know. It was a weird booking. As a kid, I remember thinking, doesn't seem like it should. Somebody should have DQ'd here. Like, if this was the Cowboys versus the Eagles, the ref definitely would have thrown a flag for fireballs, but whatever. But yeah, those are mine, dude. I'll remember Hogan well, the character for sure. What about you, champ?
Well, the first one I want to mention, it's his later in his career, was the match. I believe it was on SmackDown. I'm pretty sure it was on SmackDown. When Stone Cold walked out of the company, not wanting to put Lesnar over, Hogan steps in and puts over Brock Lesnar with a bear hug to really emphasize how much of a beast Brock Lesnar is. And I thought that was great stuff. Like his ability to just look like Hogan just had this way of like looking so pathetic that you felt sorry for him and you wanted to cheer for him. And he just had a way of doing it. Like you wanted to cheer for the guy. Like, what's wrong with him? Like, and come on, Hogan, you could do it. Like that. You believe the Hulk up too. I expected the Hulk up. I expected him to whatever, and then I expected Lesnar to maybe win by, Paul Heyman hitting him with a chair, some bullshit like that, and he wins, and then F5 him, but no, he put him over with a bear hug, and today's wrestling fans, I feel like wouldn't appreciate that. They'd be like, "That's it? He ended up with a bear hug?" But it worked. Like even me as an adult, I'm like, damn, like they're really making Lesnar look really strong here. Like
it was meant to put him over. Yeah, exactly. It had the intended effect
before his match with The Rock.
It was before his match with The Rock.
And The Rock had that win over Hogan at WrestleMania 18. So it's that good old beat him better than your opponent or the champ did to hype up the match, and they did it to the T. It was perfect. Like you struggled against Hogan. I beat him by a bear hug. Like, you know what I mean? And Paul Heyman did a great job with promos, like saying, like, no one ever did that to Hulk Hogan. And that's why it was such a big moment in a way. And a lot of people have forgotten about that. And the blood, how it was trickling down the back of Lesnar while he had him in the bear hug and everything. And if I remember correctly, he was bloody, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And I think it got to a point where Paul Heyman was saying, "You're going to kill him. Let him go. You're going to kill him." Like, he did such a great job.
That was amazing TV. Jesus
and of course,
Christ.
A lot of credit goes to Paul Heyman for that, but he did a great job with that. And for people that say he never put anybody over, and look, there's a lot of guys he didn't put over, but he definitely put over. If you were big and you had a lot of muscles or you looked scary, he put you over. He had a type that he put over. It's what it is. If he thought you were too small and it wasn't believable, he just refused to put guys over that way. It's whatever. Maybe it's old school thinking. As a bonus, him saying he played guitar for Metallica or whatever the fuck he said. I don't know about that.
He said he was almost the bassist for Metallica.
Yeah, sure, buddy. Okay, the bassist is like the best guy in the band. All right,
literally air guitaring the fucking electric guitar in the commercial.
Yeah. But so there's that. And then to me, um, I'm gonna double these two. Kind of underhandedly not doing a clean finish when it should have been a clean finish with the Warrior and Sting. First was Sting getting all the
Oh,
offense.
Starcade,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, Starcade, 1, 2, 3, and they pretend like Sting was screwed over when he wasn't.
That was
So
crazy,
they had
bro.
to gaslight everybody about the kayfabe, and Bret Hart
Yeah,
had
that's
to come out
exactly
and
what they
act
did.
like they just did a Montreal screw job when he totally just won cleanly. And so there was that, and then of course
Oh
kicking out
shit.
right at 3. You could argue he kicked out on time against a Warrior.
He did, I thought.
Like
He
at
did.
WrestleMania 6. Like it's crazy. But there was that. So I'll say that. Okay. A third thing is definitely body slamming Andre the Giant. I remember watching that as a kid, and I was just like totally like amazed, and from a kid's point of view. I'll never forget in my mind, like nobody body slammed. Like, bro, they build up to that. A lot of people don't even know that. Remember all the? I don't know if you remember, but they would do a lot of body slam challenges, like Big John Studd against Andre the Giant body slam challenge, and
Yep.
they made a point that nobody could body slam them. Back then, there was no social media, so you couldn't. There was no Google.
You
You
didn't
couldn't
know they
search. Oh,
wrestled a
that's
hundred
bullshit.
times.
What do you mean? He's been
Yeah.
body slammed before. Like nobody knew he was body slammed before. So they built up to that moment, and the payoff was just ridiculous.
Crazy.
And just looking at a dude who wasn't really 7'4", but they said he was 7'4", and massive, over 500 pounds, and Hogan lifting him. I don't know how true it is that Hogan tore his muscles, because he always told that story. I don't know how true that was, but uh, maybe it was just kayfabe. But he's till this day he sells it, or he passed away. But sorry, till this day he sold it before today. But so there was that. Um, and another moment, which is to me, I don't know, like if they wrote it this way, but he left his tag team partner to get beat up, the Macho Man Randy Savage,
Oh yeah.
while he just picked up Miss Elizabeth, and took over to the back
For what? I
to
don't
make
know.
sure that she's okay.
Sure.
While the Macho Man's getting beat up, I always thought that was an interesting storyline that actually made Hogan look like the bad guy. It made Hogan look like the heel, but
100%, bro. I was a kid like, wait, that's not cool.
yeah. So there was that, and of course, that's 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fifth one, I'll never forget it. The third man, he's a third man.
Iconic.
The fact that they were waiting for the third man. Hogan's walking out. People still didn't suspect he was the third man.
I
They
know.
still did it. Dusty Rhodes did a great job on the mic. Get him,
He
man!
did.
Get him, baby! And then boom, leg drop on the most infamous leg drop of all time when he did it to the Macho Man. And he joins, and that was the beginning of the NWO. I everything that he said, and he said as far as the fans go, they can stick it. Um, me and Gene Okerlund did a great job, on the mic. They just don't make them like that anymore.
Not at
Interviewers,
all. No way.
and
Not even
and
close.
Hogan, that promo was on fire, bro. Like the fact that he it wasn't a first. He was a heel back in the '70s. People forget that.
Mhm.
So he knew how to be a heel, but he hadn't been a heel for so long, and he fucking nailed it, bro. I mean, just compare that to what Cena's doing,
He was a good heel in
right?
Rocky too. Different, but
Yeah, but he nailed this one. And here's the thing: he made it in a modern sense, like he transformed himself into a '90s
yes,
heel,
bro.
like
You're
percent.
so right about that. And you think about it, what man, that's such a great point. Because think about it, that night, he wasn't in full Hollywood gear yet. That night was literally, we saw a transition in every way. Yes, he physically made a heel turn, but from an optics and presentation standpoint, he had started to begin the process of becoming Hollywood Hogan. And that makes more sense than anything, right? Because nobody goes to sleep Hulk Hogan, the guy that tells you to say your prayers and eat your vitamins in the American way, and then wakes up Hollywood Hogan the next
I'm
day,
gonna tell
right?
you right now, you know why it worked? Because that was more him being a dick, like the way he cut the promos, the way he treated the faces, and that was him, bro. It was closer to him. of course,
Yo, you might
take your
be dead
vitamins,
right on
brother.
that.
Like,
You
what you
might
gonna
be
do,
dead
brother?
right.
You know what I mean? And it made sense to tell the fans to stick it because they were booing them. They were tired of the act. They didn't want it anymore, right? So he gave them what they wanted, but he also gave it to them in a way that they loved it. But it was great, man. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it was a great balancing act because people wanted to like cheer for him, right? Just like people are cheering for Cena now or whatever. I haven't watched in a while, but it wasn't working as they're cheering the guy, right? But he still found a way to make people boo him. He still found a way to get the fans to throw sodas and popcorn at him and nachos at him and beers cans at him. And he still found a way to be a dick and remind people that yeah, you're not supposed to cheer for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the bad guy. He had a way of doing it, right? He just
Yeah.
had a way of doing it. And you know what he did that a lot of heels don't do now? When he was a um that what worked for him when he was the face, when he was a big deal in the 80s, is that a lot of the heels would act like cowards, and it kind of helped pump them up a little bit, and they would cheat and do things, right? And bro, just little things that he would do, like he would like claw the back and he started like what I mean. He would do more
Old
heelish
school,
stuff.
like heel tat. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
heel
No, and that's
tactics,
missing so
and then
much today.
it was like he's such a worm. Like he would only win by cheating. NWO guy always came in and fucked it all up, and then he started to act like a coward when he was like, no, 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 and then and like and people fucking hate like little
Oh
weaselly
man.
cowards like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
even if they wanted to love him because the character was so cool, he found the way to make him fucking boo, and he found
Bro.
a way like to get Luger over. He got Luger over. The crowd went crazy when Luger got him in the torture rack. The
Yo,
crowd was like, "Holy
they,
shit!"
they sent that man in America. They sent that man across America in a bus, and they still couldn't get him over the way Hogan did.
Vince couldn't get him over, bro.
Hell yeah.
People are
Nah,
like,
you're right.
but the problem with Lex is that it was Brett's time and everybody knew it, right?
Oh yeah.
And that was a main issue, and there was a transition. Like the guys that were under Hogan, wrestling for the workers' belt, the Intercontinental belt, were now the top guys, right?
Mm.
And people didn't want to go back. They're like, well, the attraction's Brett now, and he's doing awesome matches. What the fuck am I getting out of this fucking like Lex Luger guy? He's just like Hulk Hogan, but worse. Like what are we getting?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, it was just the wrong era for Lex. I think Lex would have shown up maybe 10 years prior. I think
Yeah.
he would have been a
Good
bigger name.
call. Good call. You're absolutely right. It was just too. It was too close to a
The
replacement
Yokozuna
at
body
that
slam
certain.
got over though. That
Oh
got
yeah.
over.
No, no, no. And that's the thing is so many people at
Because
the time.
actually, like Hogan, before Hogan left, he tried to body slam Yoko and he couldn't do it, and he even like held his back, like and
I
everything. And
remember that.
yeah,
Yes, at the
like
King of
he
the
made
Ring.
sure to
You're
leave
right.
that trail of
Yeah.
like
For
nobody could
somebody.
body slam. They went back to the Andre thing, but now the guy that body
All
slammed
right,
Andre
bro. You're
couldn't body
cooking.
slam.
You're cooking.
You know what I mean? So when everybody tried, remember like I don't know, do you remember that body slam challenge?
The
I
one
remember watching
between.
Superstar like Saturday morning. I was watching it,
Oh, I thought you were
bro.
talking about Big John Studd.
Yeah. Everybody. I remember like Adam Bomb showed up and like, oh, this guy's gonna do it. He couldn't do it. And
Yeah,
all
that
these
was
guys.
awesome. They all went. It was
And
like a
then
gauntlet match to slam him.
and then I think I forget like the announcer, the Macho Man said there's nobody else. And then everyone's looking at the Macho Man, and the Macho Man found a way, like without saying a word. The crowd is like kind of like cheering for
They
him, like
won him.
you do
Yeah.
it, Macho,
Yeah.
Macho Man, you do it. And then Macho Man did like let me tell you something. Macho Man had to work like he gassed up the crowd, right? Gave him hope, and then he had the most pathetic attempt. Like he wasn't even close about his slamming Yokozuna, and I think that was to deflate the crowd.
Ooh,
He
yeah,
did
yeah,
a great
yeah.
job. Like everybody just got deflated. They were like, "Fuck, the Macho Man did worse." And he kind of knew, like, if Adam Bomb could have been like, the Macho Man's not gonna do it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
Adam
like
Bomb's a
the
beast.
crowd's deflated, right? And all this is Vince, by this is the Vince did all this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or like,
Absolutely.
and maybe Pritchard. I don't know who else was in charge of that, writing all that, but um, the helicopter shows up and Lex Luger with a USA t-shirt, like a button-up shirt. the hero, and all of a sudden there's hope again. Everybody's kind of
Rips it
like,
off with the jeans and the
yeah, yeah,
boots.
yeah.
Oh,
But then he whoops he hits him with the elbow, the bionic elbow, whatever the
the
fuck it was.
bionic elbow. Yeah, yeah,
And then he
bro.
body slams him, and
Oh
it was a
yeah.
horrible body slam, but it didn't matter. He still got over because he
Yes.
didn't really body slam him. He kind of like just
He
like,
kind of just like let him like do a shitty
yeah, it was kind
cartwheel,
of
kind of.
weird. Like,
Yeah,
but the crowd went crazy. And
crazy.
see everything I just explained. All these writers today that they have, and all these storylines with words matter. But I'm going to tell you right now, Mario, and this including Hogan, including even guys like the Warrior, Macho Man, they knew how to work a crowd. They knew how to do it without words. They knew how to tell a
Yeah.
story without words, with emotions, with whatever it is. They didn't insult people's intelligence. Like, people would get it, and you saw it with the crowd reactions. People just, for whatever reason. Now, I don't watch professional wrestling enough today to like confirm this. Maybe there's guys out there that could do it, but I just don't see it, bro. I just don't
MJF.
see.
MJF is good. MJF is
Mm.
actually really good.
Well, he's good at the mic. I think people confuse great mic skills. I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way. I haven't watched enough to know. Having the ability to cut a good promo, having good mic
Promos,
skills,
yes, are different.
it
Yeah.
just that's not what I mean though. Like you could
No, I
work the
get what
crowd
you're
with a
saying.
promo, right? But today, like this, like I'm tired of all the bitching and complaining about all the crowds are hijacking the shows after WrestleMania, and it's not about them. And then learn how to be a fan. Like, no, that's you guys. You
Mm.
guys don't know how to work that crowd. You're getting worked by the crowd, right? You don't know how to have that crowd in the palm of your hands. And these guys knew how to do it.
Without a
They knew how
mic
to do
in
it.
their hand.
Yeah, even without the mic in the hand, right?
No, you're
But
right.
they knew how to do it, man. They felt larger than life. And maybe the crowd knew how to act different back then. I don't know, right? I don't want to dive too much into that, but those are my thoughts. But one last thing, I'll give you the last word, Mario, is Hulk Hogan, famous, infamous, face and heel, kayfabe, and in real life. Um, it's it's it just is what it is. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I believe this. A lot of people say it's Ric Flair, greatest wrestler of all time. Ric Flair, very accomplished, big name, also a politicking type of guy, NWA champion. But I'm gonna tell you right now that if there is no evolution, if WWE never buys WCW, and like the way Ric Flair's legacy was going, everybody would have forgotten about Ric Flair by now, right? The WWE revived the vision of Ric Flair's whole career, right?
Yeah,
And
that's kind
and
of a
it
great
kinda needed
point.
that, but I'm gonna tell you right now, even if WWE went under after Hogan left the first time, nobody would ever forget about Hulk Hogan. Nobody. Hogan was available to watch everywhere, bro. Like, the first time I saw Ric Flair was, before WrestleMania 8. That's the first time I saw him on TV.
Hmm.
He wasn't in my television. Like,
Me
it just
neither.
wasn't.
I saw him
I saw
fight
it on
wrestle Macho
Eric's.
Man. Macho Man was the first live match I ever watched him at
Yeah.
WrestleMania.
So like, and the only reason I'm mentioning all that, and I'm not diminishing obviously Ric Flair, right? But the only reason I'm mentioning that is Hulk Hogan was the one guy, and I know somebody said earlier, I think it was Carlos, I could be wrong. But he is the first ever crossover global star in the history of wrestling. You look, bro. You could have a dude tear his shirt and they know what you're referring to, right?
Mm.
Um, Listen here, brother. Like, people know what you're talking about. What you gonna do, brother? People know what you're talking about, right? A Hulkamania running wild was bigger than the WWF. It was bigger. He's the one guy, him and even The Rock, to his credit, that became bigger than the industry and bigger than the company. This guy was a shitty actor, bro, and he still got roles in Hollywood. All right, that's how popular he was, and nobody will ever take that away. And and I will still say this. I'm a bigger fan of Stone Cold, but even I need to admit this. Stone Cold overall is is not a bigger name than Hulk Hogan. And I'll leave it at that. Last word,
Yeah,
Mario.
I will say that
Oh,
at
by the
the
way,
end of it.
I don't mean to interrupt. I
No,
apologize.
go ahead.
I don't think I read the super chat, and I apologize. Nando, shout out to you, brother. I appreciate the super chat. I had seen it, and then we got caught up in a conversation, but I appreciate it. Hulk Hogan made Vince McMahon a millionaire. Stone Cold made him a billionaire. And by the way, Stone Cold refused to take part in any racist storylines. Um,
Love it.
but what that is true. He did make Vince McMahon a millionaire, and Stone Cold made him a billionaire, and all that good stuff. But good points. But go ahead,
Mhm.
Mario.
Yeah, listen, I think that when the dust settles, Hulk Hogan is going to be remembered as an icon because he was the first piece of Americana to really come out of sports or entertainment in general. Yeah, there's Mickey Mantle and a few other guys, but like you look at Muhammad Ali, he was actually really hated back then, and so when you look at Hulk Hogan, whether it was propaganda or not, he encompassed the American spirit at the time, right? And I don't think you can rewrite history in that way. You said it yourself. He was a guy who transcended wrestling, and he was the first to do it. He was in the, by the way, at fightsatw.com, Abe Gonzalez wrote a great piece that I really urge people to read. It's terrifically written on the complex nature of Hogan versus Terry Bolla, and I don't know that we'll ever get anything similar to Hulkamania. Not even OTC or Bloodline. None of that shit comes even close to what Hulkamania was. So yeah, RIP, brother. Definitely um belongs on that list. Belongs on the Mount Rushmore, of guys responsible for this sport being where it is today.
100%. Hey guys, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate the comments. Make sure you hit the like button before you go, and visit Infighting FX and for more content from Mario. And what you gonna do, brother? What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? All right, and yes, I remember the Hulk Cup. Everybody remembers the Hulk Cup.
Love the Hulk up.
And yeah, so we're out of here,
Hell
guys.
yeah.
Peace.
Peace.